Okay, well, welcome to College Essays and Career Clarity. Susan and I are each going to introduce ourselves in just a minute, but we both have a very particular passion in this area. And our goal in working with families and working with students is that they have confidence through this whole process. And we want them to be well prepared. So the good news is, even if you have a rising senior, it's not too late to be prepared way before they hit submit in the fall. And if you have a rising junior or a student that's finishing their sophomore year, this is going to set you up to know what's ahead so that you're feeling super confident early next year. Okay, I got to get these slides going. So I am Lisa Marker-Robbins. For those of you, I know Susan and I both were inviting our social media followers. We were both inviting our email list. And I have been in education for nearly 30 years now, over 30 years actually. And I have worked as an independent educational consultant, but I specialize, so for 26 years, but I specialize in the last 15 years as a career coach. I work with students on career development. Let me say, career development is a lifelong process. But career advising often happens in a point in time. And so I love supporting students in building that self-awareness to connect it to the career piece. And that's my personal passion. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio, but serving families all over North America. Susan, coming from the Detroit area.
Mhm. Thanks very much, Lisa. It's so good to be here with all of you. This is prime time for college essay writing. Right as school ends, we start to get a lot of interest. People say, oh, it's real now. In fact, folks who call me and say, should my child start early? I say, no, 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 no. College essays work when it feels like you are actually applying to college. But for the younger students and the family and parents of younger students, everything I'm going to talk about today is relevant because there are things you can do to prepare. So I wouldn't say to practice writing. I would say practice thinking the way I'm going to teach you to think. As Lisa said, I'm located in Detroit. I'm from Wow Writing Workshop. I founded this company 15 years ago with a partner who has since retired. So now I am the sole owner and founder. It's weird to say I founded this company because there was another person who had a lot to do with it. We have a 10-step method, which I'm going to share with you later. I'm a writer and a writing teacher. So everything I tell you, I want to make sure that you can do it. I don't want to just give you tips. I don't want to just give you ideas. I want to make sure that everything I share is usable. And so I encourage you to ask questions. My background is in writing and teaching. I've been in the communication business. I have taught writing for many years. I have a Master of Fine Arts in writing and a bachelor's degree in psychology, which actually has come in handy quite a bit over the last 35 years. And I love doing this work, and it's really a pleasure to speak to you all today.
One of the things, Susan has been on my podcast a couple times, and we just sometimes get on Zoom and hang out and have great conversations. And one of the things that I love about working with her is we come at these topics from very different angles. We're both always learning from each other. And I know I'm even going to learn something today and probably vice versa
Yes.
as we get into it. So a little bit of housekeeping. Some of you did pre-submit questions. You get to go first when we do the Q&A at the end. So we will be doing a Q&A. Don't let that stop you though from pulling up the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, or I guess if you're on a tablet, sometimes it's on the side, but finding that magical Q&A, you can submit questions at any time. Don't be shy about that. If it comes to mind, the best time to ask is right then. And if we happen to talk about whatever you ask, then we can skip over your question when we get to it. So don't be shy with that Q&A button. Try to use the Q&A for asking questions. Try to use the chat to talk about cicadas and summer and all the fun things that we already have going on over in the chat. So don't hesitate to send something in over there. But it is easiest for me as your moderator if actual questions go into the Q&A feature. We'll start with those that we have submitted first, and then we'll move on to live questions. We promised everybody that if you showed up live, which is so hard to do in the summertime, especially when in both of our areas of the country right now. It is a beautiful evening, sun shining in. It's going to rain tomorrow here, but you're with us and we want to honor that. So we have free resources for you. Absolutely. And we will be dropping those in the chat. So, with that said, I'm going to put my camera away so that we're not a distraction to your slides. We will come back face to camera when we get to the Q&A portion, my friends. Okay. Let's talk about self-awareness because this piece is so key for both career clarity and authentic essays. It will serve both. And, I meet a lot of adults as well who are not always super self aware, right? We all know people like that. So, what does it mean when we're talking about self awareness and how will that serve the students that we're working with? When Lisa, and Susan and I were talking about this, we don't define self-awareness necessarily differently, but there are different pieces to self-awareness that serve each of our separate needs better. So when I'm looking at it from an idea of career clarity, where am I going? Andy Borst from the University, well, he was at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign when he was on my podcast. He's now at the University of Georgia. He's actually giving a webinar somewhere else last night that I registered for so I could get the recording. But he's a smarty. And he said, this is really about, when we're asking questions in the essays, we want to know who you are, what you've done in the past that tells us what you're going to do when you're here and what you're going to do with that in the future. And you have to have great self-awareness to be able to express that to us in the essays that we ask. When I'm coming at this from a career clarity standpoint, when I talk about values, there are lifelong values and there are situational values, right? As a teenager, you might not say that your parents are a big value to you. As a 56-year-old, I sold a company a year ago because I wanted to be more available to my aging parents. So values can shift, but we have some core beliefs that drive us. And sometimes this is a matter of semantics as well. Motivations are what are the things that I'm interested, motivated to do, or the things that I even avoid are keys into what motivates me. When Lisa, am talking about strengths and aptitudes, I talk about soft skills, hard skills, academics, where I have talents that show up in my grades and the rigor that I take. A lot of people I find when they are talking about career clarity, they will go straight to, well, what class am I good at? And then choose a major that sounds like that class. My experience has been that is setting students up for failure. And that when students do that, they end up making big swinging changes, 180-degree moves when they are pursuing different career paths. Hardwired personality, really innate traits that we have that get us excited and guide us toward a fulfilling path. And then finally, those experiences and insights that we get when I do my 3-step process for career clarity, we build self-awareness first, then we funnel down to careers that match the student's wiring, and then we not only research, but we create real world experiences. And this is what I'm talking about in experiences and insights, real world experiences that give us the keys to what we want to pursue. Let me kind of put it this way. And this is how the experiences, insights, and the hardwired personality helps us. I'm gluten-free, not by choice. I would love to have a big old piece of pie right now. Can't do it. When I go to a restaurant, I have a huge menu in front of me, right? And I immediately have to funnel down to what fits for me. And I have to have the self-awareness of I'm gluten-free. I know what serves me well. I know what I can eat. Then I funnel it down to what has that little gluten-free friendly icon next to the menu. So I funneled it down to what fits. And now I have a bunch of things that I still could eat and are going to serve me well, right? I ultimately have to experience that and choose one. If it's a restaurant I go to a lot, we went out to eat with friends last night. I've eaten a number of things on this menu that are marked gluten free, and I'm already having my favorites. And I had one of my favorites last night. And so I've found the one that fits me best. So if you think about gathering those real world experiences, funneling down to what fits based on values, aptitudes, and your hardwired personality, you're learning things and gaining insights that will help guide you in choosing the right major. And a lot of these schools are going to ask you to talk about how you know that it's a fit. So we're using all of these things to build the self-awareness. And let me say something about experiences and insights. I had a student a few years ago, Matthew. He's now out of college and working in finance in New York City. Matthew he thought he wanted to go into computer science. And actually, Susan, he was one of those students from here that went to the University of Michigan. We were just talking
Ah.
about the high cost of college when you go out of state. And so he was one of those students here that went up to the University of Michigan. But when he was in high school, he actually was able to land an internship in computer science. He, by the way, had to have a LinkedIn profile to even be accepted. So something to think about. I do have a free LinkedIn profile guide. If anybody wants it, just let me know and I can send it in the after email. He did that experience and he hated his internship. He came back to me and he said, that was a total failure. And we dug in and I said, well, first of all, it's not a failure. You learned something. As long as we learn something, even if what we learned is it doesn't fit, that's an insight that creates self-awareness that can help drive your essays, your applications, your college, and your major choices. And when we dug in, he told me about there was one project that they did that they worked with the finance department, and his high school internship was at Kroger, and they're headquartered here in Cincinnati. And so then we started facilitating real world experiences around finance. So ultimately, he went to the University of Michigan, he went to the Ross School of Business and majored in finance, and now he is working in New York City in finance. So when we are talking about building self-awareness from a career standpoint and selecting the majors and the career and then backing into major and then backing into colleges that fit, those are the things I look at. Now, Susan, any
Yes.
of those you want to tear
Yes.
apart or say like, that's great that Lisa likes that one, but I don't think that one matters when you're writing an essay.
I will say that everything you've said makes a lot of sense. And yes, Lisa and I have these conversations all the time. I say, well, I wouldn't exactly say it that way. I would say it this way, and here's why. So here's one way that we differ a little bit, but it's not because I don't agree. It's because I frame it differently. So we look, and I'm going to share my 10-step process for writing application essays. And when we start with essays, I actually quiet all the noise and I tell my students, yes, your self awareness is very important. Major exploration is very important if you are applying to a school where you either need to do a direct admit by major, or major is very important, or you're choosing the school because of the major or the program. But really, where I want to start is, who are you beyond what you've accomplished? So often, when students go into pre-college programs, like what Lisa's talking about, doing internships, trying different extracurriculars, trying different classes that might, spark interests or have them pursuing their interests. I want to back out a little bit when we start with essays, and I want to say, you are the same person when you're doing these ambitious things, when you're in school, and when you're in the kitchen sitting with your sister. You are the same person. So what I want to start with is a slightly different self-awareness, where I want you to understand what your best characteristics are. And parents, I tell you this, that parents say to me, well, what should I do? And I say, try to keep your hands off. But see, that's not helpful because parents are going to get involved anyway. So I say, here's your job, parents. Your job is to help your child recognize their strongest, most positive characteristics. And there are no right answers. Being resilient isn't better than being a problem solver. Being quick on your feet is not better than being compassionate. It doesn't matter. What I'm trying to do is help students recognize in a culture where we talk so much about accomplishments. What have you done? What have you done? How many did you do? How many hard classes did you take? How many years did you do that activity? I want to say step back for a moment because when I talk to admissions officers, I ask them, I've been doing this for 15 years. So what do you want me to tell my students? And they say, no matter where they're from, tell them to answer the question. I'm going to talk more about the kinds of prompts that you'll be answering. So I absolutely advocate for what Lisa's talking about, but I also want to make sure that we're focusing on in the personal statement and that type of essay or an essay that asks you about problem solving or about how you think about something, that you don't worry too much about what you've done and you think about who you are. Lisa, I'll pass it back to you on that.
I love that. I think it also demonstrates how we've got to go at this from every angle, right? We've
Right.
got to
Mm-hmm.
understand the whole person. It's funny, you were saying like accomplishments and brag sheet and all of the things. Even when it comes to writing, the essays about why this major, why this college, even when it is about getting into competitive majors, um, it's not necessarily about bragging or having a huge accomplishment or earning an award. It's about, do you understand what that major entails and what can be done with it? Do you understand that world of work? It actually makes me remember a story from Ohio State University that I'll tell real quick. A few years back, not a few years, a lot of years back, I was working with a student who, I mean, honestly, he's probably a parent now. It was long enough ago. He was admitted to Ohio State. He was admitted to engineering, and he was invited that February after to compete for an engineering scholarship. And those of you that listen to me a lot and attend my webinars and listen to the podcast might have heard this story before, but just bear with me for a sec. And they said, write a personal statement before you come. Be prepared for an impromptu interview, and then they were going to have to do an extemporaneous writing assignment as well and do a tour. I mean, Ohio State was trying to sell them to the students, and the students were trying to sell themselves to the school. But the student was like, I already wrote a personal statement. What am I supposed to do? And when we asked Ohio State what he should write about, we said, well, they already have his personal statement from the Common App. Yes. Okay. So all you said was write a personal statement. We're going to guess you want something different. What do you want? And they said, we want to know that the student understands what it means to be an engineer, because we have a lot of students select engineering because they're good at math, good at science, they enjoy it, they know that they can make a good living, but they don't really know what it means to be an engineer. And so when we're asking students to write even about accomplishments, the accomplishment doesn't have to be an award. It would be better to be able to show that you have understanding of yourself, the school, the major, and the career. And
I
I think
love
that
that
goes,
example. I'm sorry to interrupt
yeah.
you, but it's so good because that is when we have students, and I'll talk a little bit more about this when we have them writing why this college, or why this major, why this program. And I tell them, don't just tell the school what they already know about themselves. Tell them demonstrate that you understand. It's a dating essay. It's not I like movies and you like movies. It's, well, what if I like horror films and you like indie films? Like, this is not compatible. So really, like you're saying, dig down, go deeper, and really show that you know what you're talking about. And that is more compelling. I can't imagine that anybody would have students writing impromptu essays anymore. But
Well, like I said, he's probably old
long time
enough that
ago.
he's a parent.
I love
But
it though.
I
Good
love
story.
the story, and it's never gotten old because, and I've had it verified time and time again by like podcast guests and people that I talk to in admissions, other IECs. So let's talk about how admission by major works, because the reality is it fluctuates, but it's usually right around 71% of students attend public universities. So if you guys even want to tell me in the chat, um, do do you know the difference? Don't tell me this, but does your student intend to apply to a university or a liberal arts college? And this is where we need to talk about how admission by major works. Susan
Yeah.
said earlier, hey, if the schools you're applying to admit directly to major, or if major plays a role, or if they have really competitive majors that are hard to get into, which we do have breaking news from Indiana University that I'll tell you guys in a second. But um, those schools, 71% of the students that attend public universities, those are the schools that are typically going to be admitting some or all students directly to a major. They will ask students, not all of them, but they frequently ask why this school, why our school, or why that major at our school. Some variation, there's dozens of variations. And go ahead and answer me in the chat. I want to hear. A liberal arts college is not usually going to ask that question. They are more flexible. They are not admitting to majors. But the reality is 71% of students who attend post secondary ed, are going to go to a university, or a university, period. I should have said university on this slide, not public university, but a university, not a college, not a liberal arts college. And it looks like the people who are answering in the chat are saying yes, university. This is where it matters. If you have a student who's going to apply to a smaller liberal arts college or a medium-sized liberal arts college, the major piece has less impact or no impact. And the Common App personal statement is really where you're going to want to focus your writing, because they're not going to ask things like why that major. We did a research project, which there are 50 state flagship universities, 50 states, 50 state flagships. And we asked the schools that if, how are students admitted? Are they not admitted to a major at all? They're just admitted to your university. Are they admitted to, everybody's admitted to a major, or are some majors direct admit and some not? And it's kind of complicated. And what they told us, 84% of them said that choice of major is a key factor when they are looking at students. It often plays a hidden role, frankly. I had Rick Clark. He used to be director of admissions at Georgia Tech. Now he's like, they changed his title. He's in a new position. I think it is strategic enrollment or something like that. But I had him on the podcast. We recorded back in January. I think this came out in April. And he talked about at Georgia Tech, where they don't admit students directly to major, but they do require students to write this is why I invited him on. I said, Rick, you don't admit students directly to a major, but you have them write an essay where they have to explain why why they listed on their application an intended major and how they know it would be a great fit. And I said, that's so confusing to me. Can you come on and talk about it? You guys do not want to miss that episode. Go back to episode 169 of College and Career Clarity, my podcast. If you don't know my podcast, College and Career Clarity, where he does a deep dive on talking about this. And by the way, I'm going to give you two pieces of breaking news to tell you that things are always shifting in this piece of the puzzle. Susan, yours is more stable. Mine shifts a lot more.
Yeah.
Writing is writing. Everybody has to do the personal statement. But at Georgia Tech last year, about a year ago, they made a decision that, not in word, but in practice, they made computer science a direct admit major. So if a student doesn't apply to computer science as a first-time freshman during their senior year of high school, when they submit their application, they can never switch into computer science later. It's a closed door. That is the case for that same major at University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, or nursing at Creighton University, biomedical engineering over at Johns Hopkins. Computer science is almost that way at Maryland. It's getting that competitive. The breaking news that I wanted to share with everybody is Indiana University just announced, and it's not even on their website yet, but they are increasing the rigorous standards for students who don't get admitted to business. They're not direct admits to business, but they're offered pre-business. They are increasing the standards that have to be met to move from pre-business into the business college. And there are students, Susan and I were talking about when we got on. I said, "You're not going to believe what I just found out yesterday." Because what they did was they just announced it this week. And there are students who are seniors who already committed and they already told other colleges no. And this is why Andy Borsch said it when he was on my podcast. Go to the colleges that want you there, that admit you to the major. If the school does direct admit and you aren't directly admitted to the major, go elsewhere. Now, we took all the data from the 50 state flagships and we have a free resource that I'm giving you, which helps you understand how admissions by major works, when it plays a role, when it's difficult to change into a major. I use making it very difficult now to change into business. When it's easy to change majors, we're very transparent with the data set and we're giving you all of the questions that how you can write an email. I'm giving you what I call swipe copy. So, Susan, you're probably not a fan of swipe copy because you like original writing as
That's
a writer
okay for this
yourself.
purpose.
But for
For
this
this
purpose,
purpose, works.
this is allowed. Even Susan says it's allowed. You copy my email, personalize it a little bit. You can send it to any college to figure out how the listed major on your application is going to affect your chances for getting in. So, free resource for everybody. Now, there's the role that they play saying, what have you done so that we know that this is a fit? And then there are competitive and restricted majors. So what we just found out from IU is business is now becoming a pretty restricted major. Some of these open only to first year applicants. And why do they do it? Not because they don't like kids. Believe me, Susan, me, anybody who works at a university in admissions, they like kids. They want to see people be successful, but they have to have quality control and meet capacity. What would you feel like if they let you into a major and you couldn't get all the classes in to graduate in 4 years? And parents, you probably have budgeted for 4 years. When my kids were going to college, we were budgeting for 4 years. I wasn't planning on 5 years per kid, 6 years per kid. And so they need to set you up for success. And they're not doing it to be mean, they're doing it to serve you. And I'm going to say it again, go to where they show you the love. So that's how admission by major works. Now, what I want to do is turn it back over to Susan so she can begin to talk about the different essays that your kids are going to have to write. And then we're going to take it over to the why this major or why this university essay.
All right. Well, okay. So let's talk about two different kinds of essays. There's a personal statement. Most schools use the Common Application right now. Now, both of us are based in the Midwest. I work with students all over the country and all over the world, just like Lisa does. I do have a lot of students who apply in the state of California. The University of California schools have what they call personal insight questions. Instead of one personal statement, there's 4 PIQs. I'm not going to get too much into that because the principles I'm going to share about the personal statement really apply to the PIQs and to other essays as well. Personal statement, the Common Application, it is used by, I don't even know what the number is anymore. Have we reached, I don't know what we've gotten to.
It's over 1,000.
It's over 1,000. When it got past about 800, I said, I'm not counting anymore. It's a
Oh,
lot.
I quit counting at 1,000. I did count all the way up to 1,000.
So it's a lot. And I have very, very rarely found a student who is working with me who is not using the Common Application. If it is available to you, I suggest using it because it's the same application. It goes to every school. And for the schools, it's easier as well. There's standard information everybody needs to know. And then there's a section. I'm going to say something about the Common App. There is writing hidden in the Common App. So just so you know, there are writing prompts in various parts of the application. They're not always easy to find. You find them as you apply. Some of them are easy. It says writing on the section of the Common App, but just so you know, but the personal statement is where you start. It is clear and obvious and easy to find. The Common Application prompts go like this. Now they all start with the same general prompt. tell us something about yourself beyond scores and grades and da 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 that we so that we can know who you are. Basically, that's what they're saying. I'm paraphrasing. I'm intentionally not showing you the prompt. Why am I not showing you the prompt? Because the prompt, while it matters, is not the point of this particular discussion. What I want you to understand is, regardless of the prompt, there's 6 options. There's actually 7 options. The seventh option is topic of your choice. I have yet to find a student who really needed to use topic of your choice. Occasionally they do, but rarely. It is easier to answer a question than to just write into the atmosphere. So, personal statement, it highlights traits. Like I said, we're not talking about accomplishments or achievements. We're talking about who you are. What kind of person are you? It illustrates these positive qualities with an example, at least one example. This is really important. We tell our students to start with what we call an anchor story. So let's say you choose the prompt that asks about a time you have overcome a challenge. I want a story, a relatively recent story, something that happened in the last couple of years, at least, definitely during high school. And I want to make sure that it illustrates at least one positive characteristic and it answers a question. It doesn't matter if you start with the characteristic or trait. It doesn't matter if you start with the story. It doesn't matter if you start with the prompt. So for some students, they're going to look at the prompts and say, oh, this one asks about something about my background that really is important to me. And they say, oh my gosh, I have 3 different stories I could tell. And they illustrate these positive characteristics. Others are going to say, I am such an amazing problem solver. That's my best trait. And I can think of so many different examples of that. Others may say, oh, the time that I directed the play last year, that was the most meaningful experience I've had. I have so much to say about that. So as long as you can balance the prompt, the anchor story, and the characteristic, you're ready to write. That's the personal statement. Now, for some students, that anchor story is going to end up being the whole essay. The essay is just about that experience. For others, that anchor story is going to hold you in place, and there's going to be other bits and pieces of context, perhaps history, thoughts. It doesn't matter. And I'm going to tell you now that neither one is better. A more complex essay is not a better essay. A more unusual story does not necessarily make a better essay. The mistake that people make is they don't understand the prompt. And I'm going to tell you, make sure you read the prompts carefully. And that leads me to supplements. For supplements, same thing. You need to understand the prompt. Different schools, even if they are why this school or major essays, they're going to be different lengths. They're going to have a different focus. One is going to say, why do you want to come to our university? And another one is going to say, why are you interested in this school or program? Those are different questions. The university question could encompass a school or program, but it can also talk about other things. Some schools want to know about why you want to go to that area of the country. Some are not interested. I will tell you that none of them are interested in your thought about their sports. That is not the question. I'm in the state of Michigan. I have a lot of students who apply to U of M, and they'll say, I love the Wolverines. I love basketball. I love football. And I say, that's wonderful. It's not completely irrelevant, but it's not the question. So make sure you pay attention to the question. The questions can be things like, they can ask about communities that you're a part of. They might ask about specifically about a problem you solved or a challenge you faced. They can ask about your role in situations that are unfamiliar or uncomfortable for you. Some students feel uncomfortable because they think that those questions are asking them about diversity. And by that, they mean, how am I, quote unquote, diverse? How am I different from everyone else? That's not the question. It's very important to understand that. People will say, well, I'm just a regular kid. I'm a regular kid going to a regular school, having regular experiences. You get to go to college too. So for supplements, we like to look at them as a strategic package. There's the common application personal statement, and then many schools have supplemental essays. Once you've finished writing your personal statement, the supplements complete the picture. And we encourage students to think about, well, what does the school already know about me? What else is in my application? They know about your activities. They know your extracurriculars. They know what kind of classes you've taken. They know what kind of school you go to. They know whether your parents went to college. there's a lot of quantitative data already in the application. So we encourage students to use these essays, whether there's just a Common App personal statement, whether it's University of California and there's 4 PIQs to answer, or it's Common App personal statement plus one or more supplements. Think of them and how they work together and how they paint a picture of who you are. So that's the basics, Lisa. You want to talk about why this school and major next?
Absolutely. I
All
I
right,
want to tell a really quick story about
please.
a student. You just in this again, this is somebody from years past,
Mm-hmm,
um, who even before DEI was really in the news, now or earlier. So this is prior to COVID even.
mm-hmm,
She was applying, she was white, upper middle class, and was applying to Ohio State. She they have a scholarship called the Morel Scholarship up there, and it is about diversity, and it's worded in a unique way, and it's in the Common App. You can check off if you want to apply to it and see how it's worded. She had started a film club, so she was very passionate about film. Started a film club while she was in high school. They did a project with her film club to help admissions recruit. She went to a private high school, recruit students. The admissions actually used her film that they created to recruit underserved populations that looked many different ways. And they were able to have a more diverse student body because of the recruitment that they had using what the film club that she started did.
Oh man, fantastic.
And she got the Morel Scholarship, which is a full ride. And so I say that, Susan, I love that you said like people are going like, I'm just a regular old student out here, right? But she was using film to get career clarity. She she was a student leader, so she was a natural one to go ahead and create and start a club. But she had an impact. They're looking for what mark are you going to leave on your high school? What mark are you going to make here? I mean, that's another thing that they look for. But the pressure to, I have to have a story of hardship, or I have to solve cancer, or feed everybody in Africa, that is not what they're looking for. That
Absolutely.
is authenticity.
In fact, I'm going to tell a story quickly. I want to
Yeah.
answer the two questions in the Q&A because these are so good and relevant right now. Someone wrote, "I've heard that some colleges like more creative essays, like using a Starbucks order that changes as a metaphor for you changing as a person. Is it a good idea to try to emanate something like that?" I will give you the one word answer. No, don't do that. So why am I so emphatic? Creativity isn't wonderful. Creativity is fabulous. I love creativity. I am a poet. I teach creative writing. I'm all about creativity. That's not the question. The question is actually quite direct. Who are you beyond what you've accomplished? And the students who answer it in their own voice, in their own words, and don't try too hard to be clever have the best chances of having that essay make a difference. The essay is not going to vault you over the wall. The first thing you need is clarity about what schools you are applying to. You need a good list, and then the essay can help. But I find students who spend too much time worrying about how they're going to present this in a unique package end up missing the point. So it's not necessary, and it takes too much energy, and it just comes across as clever for the sake of clever. So I really don't recommend it. And the next question was, can essays be a good way to acquire scholarships? And if not, what are good things to do to acquire scholarships? Um, that's a different kind of essay. Some of them are similar, the same process, because a lot of scholarships require essays. In some places, and Lisa, please chime in if you have other examples.
Yeah, I have some stuff to say on this one.
You can be offered scholarships based on your application, but it's not necessarily the essay itself that is going to get you there. So, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would say like I just, I've given you guys a couple examples where you did have to write a scholarship or write an essay to get those scholarships. That engineering story about like, do you really understand what engineering is? and then the one about the diversity, the impact essay on diversity. So those, Susan, you were talking about how it can be really hard to find essays in the Common App, and it is true. So that Morel Scholarship on diversity impact, it if you click a box, it pops up an essay. If you click a box for a particular major, sometimes suddenly an essay will pop up. This is why I'm a huge fan of start your Common App early so you don't get surprised by essays that are going to pop up that weren't there before based on how you're answering the questions. Now, going back to the scholarship question, I'm going to drop in the chat. I just Googled my feed for my podcast, or Googled, searched the feed for my podcast, and I just put in the word scholarship. We've had numerous topics on scholarships, and I think this person might have even been talking about, and you can tell me privately in the chat if you would like, um, private scholarships. Private scholarships typically are going to require an essay. Um, Leah Lamaster Horton, she was on the podcast on episode 173, and she talked about the overlap between questions that you're asked to apply to college and the ones that will serve you best for writing essays for scholarships, if you're looking for private money. But they almost always are going to require an essay. And Dave Peterson, who is a scholarship coach, he talked about on my show about how your teen's personal narrative, which is about self awareness, career clarity, who they are, their characteristics, how their personal narrative needs to align with the mission of the person, the organization giving the private scholarship. So, um,
That's the best advice. I give that advice as well. Only apply to scholarships that you are qualified for. If
yeah,
you are
that
not
is,
qualified, don't bother. You won't get the money. And it's
yeah,
not worth it. It's not worth your time to apply, and it's not worth their time to review the application.
that's, so when Ohio State answered that question about the engineering, like, no, a personal statement about engineering, you're an investment. You're either giving you a spot or they're giving you money. You're an investment and they want to be good stewards of the money that they've been given, especially if it's a nonprofit that's funding a scholarship. Like, you're an investment and you have to align with them. I'm going to drop in the chat that episode with Dave. Boost your teen's personal narrative before applications. He actually talks about how personal narrative and scholarships, how it aligns. So it was really good.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm going to listen to that one too.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
real. He's a good one. His son went to college for free, on private scholarships. So
Wow.
yeah, he tells the story on the episode. So okay, I'll let you dive in onto this. The
Okay.
most popular. These are the most asked
Ah,
supplemental essays, which is why
yes.
they get a slide to themselves, and it
Yeah,
very much relates to self awareness and the work that I also do. Take it away.
absolutely. Okay. So, why this school? Why this major? I mentioned this briefly before. Some essays will ask, what is it about this school or the specific college? Are there programs? Is it campus culture? Or do you know about it because you know someone who went there and they told you things about it? This is important to make sure that your information is up to date. I'm going to say that again. Make sure that your information is up to date. If your friend who went to Duke 4 years ago told you about their favorite class and you include that in this essay, make sure that class is still being offered and that wasn't a visiting professor. If you are very interested in a particular living learning community, make sure that your information's up to date. And also, you don't want to miss out on something because you didn't do your own research. This is one place where people say, aha, I can use AI for this. I will put in everything I'm interested in and I will get everything out that I need about this particular school. Be careful. I'm not opposed to this as a research technique, but make sure that what you get is accurate. Check it out. Ask someone, find the resource. There is nothing worse than putting something in your why this school or major essay and the school says, huh, that's not really true about us. Never mind, this person doesn't know us well enough to apply here. It's not a trick question. They're not trying to trip you up, but they're genuinely interested. What do you know about us? And why is this good for you? So it's not just here's a list of what the school offers. You see, you in that bottom right, the major, the school, how do you align? What is it that you want? What kind of community do you want? What kind of experience do you want? What kind of career are you ever interested in? These are all important questions for you to ask yourself. So, I have, I have another resource. And when you pick up the next piece, I think I'm
Yeah,
going to drop something else in the chat
sure.
in addition to the first, the resource I am giving you. But I just thought of something else would be really useful. We have a guide to a variety of supplemental essays, and there's a whole section on why this school or major, which I think can be really useful. What you're looking for is the intersection here. You've got the school, you have the major if they ask about it, and you have yourself. And make sure that you give equal weight to all of the elements in the question. Make sure you understand the question.
I
Anything to
I
add to
want to
that?
add, yeah, I
Yeah.
do want to add something, and it's really from a general standpoint on your journey and not just listening to what your sibling told you or a friend tells you. You know, right now, and I'm no longer in the test prep business. I did own a test prep company for 25 years, but I sold it a year ago. And I'm watching the the changes of who's requiring test scores, who's not. It rapidly changes. Um, you've got to do your own research, not just to have an essay, a good essay. I mean, it could kill your application if you're telling them things that are completely wrong and they don't even do anymore. But you need to make sure that you're picking the right schools, right? And I'm very passionate about reverse engineering this whole college bound process.
Mm.
Start with the career that you're wired for. If you're going to go to a university and you want to start, those of you that are showing up here on a beautiful summer night and you're taking time, it shows that you take this seriously. So don't take shortcuts. So, from my standpoint, dig in, do the work, build the self awareness, get some real world experiences, which, by the way, are going to give you excellent activities to put in your college application when you're serious about the work. But do all the research yourself. Do it yourself because if you would have been going to Georgia Tech, talked to somebody 2 years ago, they would have been like, "Oh yeah, I switched into computer science sophomore year. It was no big deal." That's no longer possible. If you talk to somebody, Ohio State University switched back to requiring test scores this fall. Well, if you talk to somebody from last year, oh, yeah, it was no big deal. I tanked my ACT. I didn't even take it again. I got into Ohio State. That can't happen anymore. So you've got to do real time research, my friends. Don't take somebody else's word for it. We had a great question that goes along with that somebody just popped into the chat. Tracy asked, do you ever tell them to use ChatGPT to verify as long as it's sourced? So, and when you were talking, Susan, about
Hmm.
making sure you've got the
Yeah.
details right,
Right.
that's when Tracy dropped that into the chat.
Ah,
And
yes.
so I know it's related to that.
Yeah.
ChatGPT is okay, but you've got to verify it on the college's website.
Yeah.
It's why I take a little bit of issue right now that IU is sending emails to students announcing this new higher bar to get into business. Almost, it seems like they're almost eliminating the option for a pre business major, but it's not even accurately reflected on their website yet. But it will be by August 1st. That's usually when
Right.
things are updated by. But I would not use ChatGPT. I remember I was buying concert tickets for a concert this summer, and I was trying to figure out if I between sections like 800 and 900, I'm sorry, 700 or 800, which would give me the better view of the stage. And I was asking ChatGPT to help me figure out what section to buy, these tickets in. And ChatGPT was wrong because they assumed ChatGPT thought that it was going from stage backwards. So that the 800, it would go 700, 800, 900. when it actually was moving horizontally, 700, 800, 900 gave me completely wrong information. So low bar, it was only about concert tickets. I did catch it and I did my own work and I corrected ChatGPT and it just couldn't figure out how it was wrong. So no, I would not rely solely. It's getting better, but I would never solely rely on that. Verify everything on the school's website or email admissions, or here's something
Yeah.
crazy, pick up the phone and call them.
Call. They will talk to you. I mean,
They
this
want
is
to
what I
talk
think
to
is
you.
important. They want to talk to you. There are people in an office waiting to answer your emails, waiting to answer your phone calls. And in most areas, depending on the school, of course, and depending on where you live in the country, you have a representative. Now, some of your representatives might cover 3 states, and some of them might cover your, 3 schools in your general area, depending
Right.
on what school it is. But there is a person whose job it is to answer your questions, and you can ask and they'll help you. And they're nice.
Absolutely.
They're often young people who recently graduated from that school or are just starting out in admissions. They're the ones who have those jobs, and they're really friendly and they love high schoolers and they're happy to talk to. And really, they don't want to talk to parents, they want to talk to students. So, students, this is a case where it's really important for you to do this part yourself.
One quick thing I wanted to add on the why this major essay. Um, as Susan was saying earlier, there's different versions of all of these supplemental essays, right? And on the why this major one, sometimes they can be very short and sometimes they can be very long. University of Cincinnati, where my daughter went to school, she graduated a year ago. Um, they give you 500 words, and Purdue University gives you 150 words. So when it's short and sweet, there's no time per personal narrative. They want it very succinct. I would even not shy away from abbreviating something if I only had 150 words to say why I want my major, especially if it's a super competitive major like engineering. I mean, they're the cradle of astronauts at Purdue, and you want to go aeronautical engineering and you have 150 words to sell yourself. It's going to lean into other pieces of your application, of course, as well, but just be short and to the point and concentrate on yourself in that alignment of fit instead of what they offer. I
All
think it
right.
goes back to what you were saying about characteristics and being you.
Yeah, exactly.
So you wanted to talk about your 10
Yeah.
step process,
Quick,
right?
quick, quick on the 10 steps. This is, oh, and I want to say, I put in the chat you're getting 3 things from me instead of just one. So this is the resource that I wanted to share.
And here it
The
comes
one that's
into the
here.
chat. I'm going to put it
Lisa's
in the
going to put it
chat.
in the chat.
These are the show up live. This is the one that even in the replay email is not going to go out into the email because we really wanted people to show up live. And
So this is for you to use on your own. We're not going to go into great detail, but here's what I want to emphasize. We start with step one. Sure, you want to call me, you want to work with me, I would love it. That would be amazing. But really, no matter what, make sure you understand the prompt. This is the mistake that most students make. It's the mistake most counselors make, even. We do a lot of professional training. Like I said, we teach people to be writing coaches who are not writing coaches. Your school counselor, your independent consultant, we're the training company. We teach them this method and they say, oh, wow, I don't spend a lot of time on the prompt. And I say, truly, it is easier to answer a question than to just write out into the air. So don't just start with ideas. Make sure you understand the prompt. Focus on theme. It's what I was talking about. Make sure you know what you want to write about and why. We don't get to draft one till step 5. That is intentional. Remember, I said I'm a writing teacher. This is a great way to write just about anything. It works great for college essays. Then in step 6, we're only reviewing content. So, parents, if you're looking at your child's essay and it's an early draft, don't start getting into sentence structure and first lines and, oh, I think you should move this here and there. Content first. Get the content straight and then move into structure. And finally polish. And by polish, I mean light cleanup, not editing. Adults should not be editing student work. Adults can comment on it, adults can ask questions and make observations and suggestions. Most people start at what we would consider step 2. They skip straight to step 5 and start writing, and then they combine steps 8 and 10. And what happens is then you end up writing multiple drafts back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, showing it to multiple readers. You can be working on your essay for 10 weeks and it's making everybody want to jump out a window. And it's not necessary. This doesn't have to take that long and it doesn't have to be that hard. That's all I got to say about that one.
I and I think we can go ahead and turn our my dog
Yeah.
literally. It's like you guys are going to see my dog. I've got a my camera does this crazy thing when I turn it back on. It
Oh,
goes
yours gets too
really
close and mine
tight.
gets
It
too far away.
does. Oh, yours does. That's crazy.
Mine does the opposite.
It just mine just started doing this like last month. It has a mind of its own. I'm like, okay, nobody wants to see my right eyeball. Please, like, let's not do that. Um, we were talking about before about how you share this information, but for most people who don't have context, they need the context. So that's why we decided for the people who showed up live that they would get their own copy of this
Mm-hmm.
and be able
Yeah,
to download it and use it because it's got great context. For
right.
anybody that's watching this on replay, Susan you have a quiz on
Mm-hmm.
your
Yeah,
page, and she is happy to give this to people, but it needs to have context
yeah,
to add
exactly.
value, which is why we had this as a show up live
Right.
bonus.
And I do want you to know that there's a second page, everyone, which it's a fillable PDF. You can print it out, you can use it on a screen. Write in, I encourage you to take your time and write in how you are going to do each of these steps. If you don't know, then talk to someone, get some help, get some support. I mean, these are the steps we follow, but it's important not to skip them and not to go, like I said, don't go straight from idea to writing to just revision back and forth. It is very hard to revise your way out of a poorly conceived idea. So make sure your idea is solid before you start.
Great advice. So let's give you guys a timeline before we do some more Q&A. Um, when it comes to my piece of this, I get asked all the time, and we actually have a quiz like, are you too early? Are you right on time? Or do you need to get hustling? Those are the three outcomes that we have for my quiz. And so, believe it or not, I will tell families like, hey, it's a little early. I have a core belief that we need to allow freshmen to be freshmen, that they need to adjust to, a lot of them came from a middle school that they were on a team of students. Now they're switching periods 7 times a day, seeing they have teachers that aren't necessarily communicating with each other. They've got increased rigor. They're trying to figure out how they want to get involved. And so let's all let freshmen be freshmen. And of course, they can be developing those awesome writing skills at the same time while they're a freshman, but we don't want to put undue pressure on them. The reality is, and this is what I was trying to share with you guys with the admission by major data and giving you that data set that we did from our research project in my swipe copy email to go find out the information for the other thousands of schools yourself. You don't want to do it for all thousands of schools, but is there are very real deadlines, and the decisions that your student is making as early as when high school starts does impact what their options are when they're applying to college and when they get to college. So there is I'd like to say earlier is better. There is a too early. Freshman year, I don't if somebody said, "Hey, can we enroll in your Launch Career Clarity course?" I would say like I won't say you can't, but I'm going to do everything I can to talk you out of it, right? So, that's not good advice. By end of second semester sophomore year, most students are ready to start digging in and doing the work. And it's not intense, right? When we start early, it doesn't have to be intense. We don't have to be pressured. We don't have to be dragging our kids along. There can be flow to this process. And so that if you start at the end of 10th grade, that would be Lisa's utopian society that will never exist. You would never feel rushed. You would nag less. Your student would feel inspired and get excited about the work that you were doing. The deal is by August 1st, heading into senior year, if you're applying particularly to a university and the Common App has a required question on it, It's what major are you applying to? It can be worded a lot of different ways. It can say what major are you applying to? It can say what is your intended major? That's how Georgia Tech and Tulane and schools like that word it, who don't admit directly to major, but major still impacts whether you get in or not, which I still philosophically have a huge problem with, but I don't run all the universities in the world, do I? Um, you need to know really by August 1st so you know what essays you're writing, so that you're not getting surprised the week before and you click a button and then all of a sudden another essay comes up. So that's my goal for you guys, is to support families to help their students have the self-awareness to funnel it down to a shorter list of careers that fits the hardwired personality, to then explore those with real world experiences and research, so that then they're ready to go ahead and take it away, Susan. Write about them and
Right.
do all the things.
Write it. Yes. So we say, like I said this very briefly earlier, don't start too early either. It doesn't matter. It's not worth it. You'll end up rewriting. So right in the summer, we say after school ends, after the APs are over, if you're in an AP school. Once the seniors are gone, it becomes urgent. It becomes real for juniors. Anytime after that, keep doing your research, write your personal statements. The supplements don't become available generally until August. Some schools will tell you early what their questions are. They'll put them on their website, or they'll say we haven't changed them from last year. But the common application doesn't go live until August, which doesn't mean that you can't set up an account and get started. But the supplements are not going to be available for most schools in June. You don't have to write them yet, but you can do your activities, you can answer other questions. And then in the fall and winter, submit. Pay attention to deadlines. Some schools in the Southeast have October early deadlines. If you're not in that part of the country, you may not know that. Some schools have November 1 deadlines. There's all kinds of different types of deadlines, early application, early decision. We're not going to go into that today, but know what you're applying for and what you're committing to. And get stuff done early. I have been doing this for 15 years, and some years on October 31st, things started getting glitchy. Students are up all night trying to get in by November 1st. Don't don't do that. Just be done early. Make yourself a schedule that gets you done early. Trick yourself into it. Motivate yourself into it. And also know that regular decision is a great thing. You do not need to submit all your applications in November, other than the fact that when we tell students to try to get done before Christmas, you don't want to go into your break and still be applying to college. I mean, a lot of students are, but it's nice to be done between Thanksgiving and December so that you can enjoy some time off. Senior year should also be fun. It shouldn't be completely consumed by applying to college.
I want to say to add two things about the timeline. I do have a previous podcast guest on, if you have a student who wants to be a pilot and they want to become, there's a lot of pathways to becoming a pilot. I'm a big one about like figure out the career, know the different pathways to get there, and then pick the one that aligns with your aspirations, your budget, all the things. One of the ways to become a pilot is to do a professional pilot's program, earning your 4 year college degree. Those programs usually require an application by mid-September to be submitted. You will miss out on those spots. If you are going to have anything that you have to audition for, musical theater, performing arts, earlier is better because they're going to have earlier deadlines. The university deadline is going to be different than the deadline for that major. So individual majors do sometimes carry special deadlines.
That's good to know too. Mhm.
One thing I know, we had somebody ask about scholarships. So paying for college is actually, Susan and I were talking about our own children when we were raising them and paying for college, and what we would and would not allow them to do. And I was telling Susan how my 20 now 27-year-old walked in on me one day, and he's a smarty pants. So he took his first test and he starts getting all kinds of literature, right? And he gets something from University of Chicago and Rice on the same day. And he walked in on me throwing his literature into the trash can. And he was like, "What are you doing? Those have my name on them," because he saw they were college literature. And I said, "Hey, I've saved for college and I can afford to send you kids to college, but not if I send everybody to the University of Chicago. Even if you can get in, that is out of our family's budget. And so we're not even going to get tempted by a school that is out of our budget, or a school that I like the school, but they don't have the major that I want. I've seen that backfire a lot. Of course, my son told me I was committing a federal offense messing with the US mail system. And I said, well, that's okay. Go ahead and report me. Anyway, um, so timeline wise, those are some real tidbits. So we want to take some more questions. And I'm gonna, if you're interested in working with either of us, if you're sitting here going like, I need my student to build the self-awareness, to connect it to careers, to get some clarity so they know what box they're checking on the major. Um, Now's the right time to go ahead and dive in to launch Career Clarity. I just totally reshot it in a professional studio and enhanced the course back in April, and it's live now. And our enrollment page, actually, this is where the QR code goes to, tells you all about the changes that we've made. You want to connect with Susan. Susan, I'll let you tell them how to connect with
Mhm.
you, and then we'll take some more questions.
Absolutely. So the QR code here is it's a 3 question survey. I'm not actually evaluating you. I'm curious to know your thoughts. And then the fourth question is to ask me, what do you want to talk about? And then you can schedule an appointment with me. It is not a hard sell. I want to talk to people. I want to know what you're thinking about. I want to know what questions you have. So I encourage you, even if you're not applying right now, complete the quiz. It'll get you some more information. Also, you'll get some more resources. And it'll also get you on my list. I have all kinds of other resources, things we send out. I appear on different podcasts, different webinars, different other, I have all kinds of partner companies that we work with. So you'll get really good information about college essays and other college application opportunities.
Okay, let's dive into some more Q&A. And I know we still have most people still on. So if you have questions, we're here. Take advantage of us while you've got us, right?
Yeah.
Okay, first question I wanted to do. Do you have, and I think we both are going to have something to say about this one,
Mhm.
Susan. Do you have some students write supplementals prior to August 1st if they have a varsity sport like football?
Mm.
I'm going to let you start and then I
Okay.
have something to add if you don't say it.
Great. All right. So we are all about schedules. We say that we have 3 principles when we're planning with a family. Process, that's the 10 steps I showed you. Plan. Plan is what kind of student is this? Where are they applying? What does their summer look like? Are they playing varsity football? Are they in the marching band? Do they have big commitments? Are you going away for 8 weeks in the middle of the summer? So I'm going to make a plan. And then the third element is schedule, process, plan, and schedule. Our schedules are legendary. People come to us asking for our schedules because we have broken down our steps and our supplement writing into distinct pieces and things that go together, things that shouldn't be separated, things that can be separated. I say that because I've had these students. I know what you're talking about. They have 2 practices a day. It's going to start. They're going to be so busy. They're not going to have time. And I say that if you can give me 4 weeks to work on the personal statement, no matter when those 4 weeks are, if those 4 weeks are in June, if those 4 weeks are in September, I need 4 weeks to get started. And then I need at least a week, 3 weeks per school, and they're going to overlap. I say all of that because for that student who has super busy things in at a certain time of year, or I've had the baseball player who's traveling all over the country all summer and is only available on every other Sunday. Plan it, figure it out. You can't write essays whose prompts have not been announced. But if you can confirm the prompts, which we do sometimes, we try to get them as early as possible. By all means, get started early. But also know that some of them are not going to be available and you don't want to guess. Lisa?
What I want to add is the most common supplemental essays are why our college or some version of that combined with why that major.
Mm-hmm.
I actually would encourage everybody if your kid's already finished in summer. Now, if you live in the Northeast and you're like, Lisa, we have 3 more weeks of school, don't do this yet, your kid will hate you. But not a good parenting strategy. I would like for you to just tell your student, could you please just make me a bullet list of 5 reasons why you might select that major?
Mm-hmm.
This will set up kind of a rough draft for certainly all of you are going to have kids apply to schools that say, why do you want to go here? Or why are you applying to that major? So for every school that you intend to apply to, Just do a bullet list of 5 reasons why you might select it.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do 5 reasons why you're selecting that major. Even if they don't have to write that essay, they've got a rough draft, but you have a great family conversation. Like that's what Rick Clark and I talked about, Georgia Tech Rick Clark, when we were having him on the podcast about it's all about communicating as a family and having these really important conversations so that you make sure that you're aligned. We've talked a lot today about making sure you're aligned with the college and why you want to go there, but you as a family need to be aligned. This is the college bound journey. Yes, your kid needs to write the essays, but and yes, they need to choose their major, but the college bound journey is a family journey and you absolutely need to have alignment. So I think that that is a really great way for you to make sure that they're clear on the choices that they're making, not because it feels good in the moment, not because that's what their friends are doing, things like that. So um,
And
that
I want
is
to answer one more thing. I'm sorry
yeah,
to interrupt, but I answered Tracy's question because she said specifically UGA. So she's talking about University of Georgia. And so I looked it up because they're always announcing just a few days ago, about a week ago. I didn't even know this because I don't have a student who's applying to UGA yet this year. So I have not had a reason to look this up. They announced their essays, no change from last year. Here's what you want to search. You can do a Google search if you can get this on the school website, not on the website of a company that helps with essays. Eventually, those will be accurate, but be
yeah,
careful. Go to the school until the Common App is open. Go to the school website. Enter the school name, application essay, and 2026. You don't want the 2025 essays. You're talking about admission. You want admission year. That can get confusing. They'll say, oh, the 2025 essays. No, you're applying in 2025. You'll be admitted in 2026. But UGA has announced that they haven't changed their question. So that football player, he can start writing his essay tomorrow if he wants to.
amen. Well, I would also say, I gave you that resource to swipe my email copy and then
Yeah.
contact the college to say, like, are you admitting students directly to majors? Are there any majors that are especially competitive or restricted? If they would
Mhm.
want to switch into them later, go ahead and just ask. And do you know your supplemental questions for next year? They
That,
don't mind you reaching out to them.
right,
It's
right.
also a way for a school, University of Michigan, they measure demonstrated interest. University of
Yeah.
Dayton, right here, measures demonstrated interest. Asking questions that are not readily answered on their website is a way to show them, like, hey, I like you. And they want to admit students who they know already like them. It actually, at
Yes.
those schools, increases your chances of getting in. Um, okay, we have another question that came in. For the personal insights questions, University of California, for those of you guys that aren't aware, I heard it's good to have 4 very different stories or character traits to highlight. Is it true? And should only one be major related? Is it better to keep simple to one event or even a montage with the same theme?
I can answer that one. And I just put in the chat one of my favorite application essay resources. Not a lot, several schools have like essays that worked on their pages.
Yeah.
I say ignore them. That is not helpful. They're always beautiful, they're always inspiring. And my students say, but I don't have anything like that. And I say, you don't have to. It's okay. Like, understand the prompt, answer the question. But the University of California has a page. I just put it in the chat how to think about their questions. They teach you how to understand the prompt. And here's what I say, you don't have to game the system. You don't have to have a big plan for the PIQs. You will answer if you answer 4 different questions, you will illustrate different characteristics. And if you answer the question that is about why is this a good place for you, you will talk about your major. If you talk about an interest, you might talk about your major. So you will accomplish what they have structured the questions very intentionally so that you will give them what they are looking for without having to think too hard about it. They have certain things they're looking for from the University of California. You can find those pieces of information. It's available, but you don't have to what I have learned is you don't have to plan it out ahead of time. You answer the questions, you look at the full application, and then you can tell if you have checked all the boxes.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that I know, I will have student or parents come to me and say, I don't think my student can gain the insights to make an informed decision on majors and careers. They seem so checked out. And what I've seen is that when things feel complicated and it's not simple and step by step, our students will look to us to be unmotivated, argumentative, shut down, difficult. They will look like all of those things when they're really just overwhelmed, scared, feeling that it's too big instead of just taking that one first step. And I think this works. This is why, Susan, I love your 10 steps. I love you saying people tend to start at step 2 and jump up to 5 instead of starting at step 1. And that's the same thing that we do. Let's just start about thinking about yourself and then using the Berkman to funnel it down to a manageable list of careers. If we do things, everything, step by step. If you're building your college list, which Susan and I are not here to build anybody's college list, that's not what we do anymore, or that's not what I do anymore, and that's never what you did. Um, Anything, if you overcomplicate it and you don't simplify it and do step by step, you're unmotivated. Who you think is an unmotivated kid, they're just going to further shut down.
Yeah.
Simple step by step process, career clarity, writing, building a college list, anything, right? Just
Yeah,
like if you're
absolutely. I mean, keep when we learn, we find that if we lower the stakes, we get better results. Our first exercise, even before the first step, is 10 minutes of writing about your morning. Why would I do that? I've done it for 15 years. I have looked at different exercises. I've tried different things. Nothing works better than this. Why? Because it is a no stakes exercise. Everyone can do it. If you went to sleep, you woke up. And so everyone can do it. And it gives me a taste of the student's voice. Then I can see, what do they sound like when they're not trying to impress anybody? And I can use that later. So lower the stakes, keep it simple. You'll get much better results. And don't believe a lot of what you read. There's a lot of noise and bad information out there.
what you read or what other people are telling you.
What other people are telling you. Yeah.
Okay, 2 more questions. We are actually in Lisa's Launch Career Clarity course now. We just started last month and plan to work on it this summer. How can we make sure my daughter's essays reflect her goals, even if she's still figuring it all out? I
Mm-hmm.
know one of the schools she is applying to definitely ask the major question essay. Okay.
All right.
So I think you probably have stuff to say about this too.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, if it's June, even if you're a rising senior, like you have time, but you have to be intentional. I think that I know that people go like, "Oh, it's summer, we got to let them rest." It is possible to both rest and plan. I mean, Susan, you gave a great example of like if you're doing football or you're super busy or whatever, like just schedule. I have found that what gets scheduled gets completed.
Mm-hmm.
But what's not scheduled is not going to get done. Like if you're on here and you've got a rising senior, but you also have a freshman or sophomore, one of the strategies that I've always taught when I was still working as a college counselor was get out your family calendar and mark off the dates that you will go do college visits, even if you don't know where you're going to go visit yet. You don't have to know where you're going to go or what major and who needs to have it. Just set aside the time to do the work. So, first of all, it's not too late. That's the first thing that I want you to hear. Colleges know that many students will change majors. They might have some limited options on what majors they can change into because of how capacity and restrictions work, but they don't expect everybody to have everything figured out. Okay. They want you to make informed decisions based upon the experience you've had. Some of you probably have already had experiences, like I told you about Matthew earlier, where he did the Kroger internship for computer science. He thought that working in IT at computer like at Kroger, that was going to be computers, that was going to be his thing, and he got there and he hated it. That actually can go into an essay. How do I know that I'm heading even in a better direction right now? Well, I can tell you one thing I've ruled out, and this is how I'm ruling them out. I'm going out, I'm talking to people to do these jobs. I am job shadowing. I am making informed decisions. So you're going to make a lot of ground up if you're by just starting now. And they don't expect you to have everything figured out, but they expect you to express what you are doing to try to figure it out.
Hmm. Absolutely. They just want, and like I said before, answer the question. And if that's your answer, that's a great answer. It's okay. If there was a right answer, it would be a multiple choice question. It's not a test. They're
That's
trying to
a
find
great
match.
message.
They're trying to see if you're a good fit. And if you're not a good fit, that's okay. It's okay for them to say no. Because I mean, sometimes it's just a matter of impossible math. There is that. If everyone applies to the same schools and has the same list, then some people aren't going to get in even if they're completely qualified. But a lot of it really is fit. They want is Jim Cotter, who used to be the director of admissions at Michigan State University, used to say, "We are the office of admissions. We are not the office of rejection. We want to like you." Like Lisa said before, the admissions reps, they like high school students. They like young people. They want you to be successful. They love their school. They want you to fit there. But if it's not a good fit, whether because you haven't had the time to think about it or you just what you want isn't what they offer, better for them to tell you up front. And there are plenty of schools for kids who don't have clarity on career and major. There's lots of places you can go to school and explore, and that's okay too. But if there is something that you want, then you want to match with that.
That's why that's why I give away. People have asked me, like, why are you not charging for that 50 school data set and the swipe copy and the worksheet and the teaching video that you have? And I'm like, because it's this important that everybody gets the right information so you can check for alignment. So 16% of the schools said, really, major's not going to nothing you put in this around majors in your application is going to impact whether you're going to get in. There's no hidden impact at our school. These other schools, as Rick and I discussed, there is hidden impact, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not even hidden. Sometimes it's direct impact if they're admitting directly to a major. But there can be an impact, but you might want to look at liberal arts schools. You might want to send the email that I'm encouraging you to send to find the schools who are going to be friendlier for students who are less clear.
Mhm. Absolutely. There
Two
you
more
go.
questions that have come in. This is what Susan talked about on the podcast with me most recently, but I'm going to let
Hmm.
you say just a few words about it, and then I'm going to drop the podcast episode in the chat.
Okay.
How can I use AI to help me with college essays?
Okay. Mostly, I'm going to say that AI can't help you with college essays because all it can do is find what already exists on the internet, and you're not out there. So, since you're not out there, it can't find you. That said, people are still going to try to use it, and you are going to see there's been an explosion of AI can help you write your college essay resources out there. Princeton Review is doing it, Kaplan is doing it, small startups are doing it. I've heard school counselors talk about it. Here's the issue: all that AI can do is do things that I teach counselors not to do, but it can do it faster. So people say, well, how about helping me find ideas? I will answer a million questions. I'll tell it everything about me. I'll put in my resume and everything I've done and all the cool experiences I've had. And it can give me ideas for what to write. And I say, that's true, it can. And I don't think that's what it should. I don't think you should be asking someone what you should write. I think you should understand the prompt. I think you should look at the different options, think about your best characteristics, find some stories that illustrate them, and pick one. It has worked for my students for 15 years. It is not hard. Doesn't make you sweat. And they get into the same schools as everybody else does at the same rate as everybody else does. They get into Harvard and they get into state schools you've never heard of, and they get into liberal arts schools and whatever because they actually answer the question. So the first thing AI is going to do is let you put in a bunch of information. There'll be different platforms. They'll ask you a million questions. You'll answer the questions. They'll give you 14 ideas. Okay, I guess, but they're not really your ideas. And it's like I said, it's something that I teach my counselor colleagues not to do. It just does it faster. The other thing it can do is it can review and edit your essay. Absolutely not appropriate. The same essay, an essay doesn't stand alone in an application. If I sent the same essay written by two different, let's say two different students wrote the identical essay by some weird chance. The first one put it together in 20 minutes. The second one spent 3 weeks, really thought about it, revised, reviewed, worked with someone who gave them good feedback. And I put the same one in an AI essay editor or give it to an essay editor, just someone who's just editing. It's like I said, I'm a reviewer, I'm a coach, not an editor. You're going to get the same feedback. The first student didn't put much effort into it. The second student put lots of effort into it and probably has a great list and is probably going to get into the school they're trying to get into. So the feedback isn't very useful. So those are the two things AI can do. I suspect that eventually there will be other things that AI can do. And perhaps maybe I'll build one and we'll make a virtual essay coach. But right now, the things that all of these tools, and they're shiny and pretty, and I've tried them all out. They look amazing. Don't be fooled by shiny things. You have what you need to write inside of you. You really do. You have everything you need. Part of the reason that my company exists and all the training we do and all the students we work with is because there's so much noise out there. And really, what you need is to be put into a quiet space, calm, turn off all the information that isn't going to help you, and just complete the task and then go about your life. You've done the hard stuff. You took the classes in school, you did the activities, you had the summer activity, you had the jobs, or you didn't, and you're ready.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, when you start to write these essays, like there's not a lot more that you can do, right? You are who
Right.
you are. Your
Yeah.
grades that are going to go to the colleges, there's very few of the over 3,000 universities and colleges that actually require you to submit mid-year grades. Very few. So the GPA is set, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
It's interesting that you said like that. I like that example of like it AI helps save maybe time, but it's not you. How many times I hear from parents like, "Oh, my kids took this test at school, or they took this free personality test on the internet that was supposed to tell them what they should do, and it told them that they should be a mortician, and they're horrified." And people, we all want. Hey, I mean, if I can take the long road or I can take the interstate, I'm probably going to choose the interstate to get there faster, right? And save time.
Mm-hmm.
All of us desire to get there as quickly as possible.
Right. Right.
But the reality is to do the real work, to do the good work, to make sure that it's right, it takes time and intention.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So we had another question, and I know people are starting to drop off, but we still have a good deal on. So this is your last chance to get questions in. If you have questions, don't grab us while you've got us in person. We don't do these all the time. When do we, this will be interesting to see if we differ on this at all. I never worry about differing because a lot of this is subjective. When do we expect to finalize the college list for my rising seniors so we know what essays to work on? Now, first of all, I would say to you, it's not just about the essays. There are a lot of reasons to finalize that college list
Absolutely.
so that you've got a list that's within budget. You know if you still need to take the ACT or the SAT. Again, you know that your family has alignment. And you know if they've got the major that can lead to the career that you want. And by the way, there's only a handful of careers that require specific majors: teaching, engineering, nursing. Um, Everybody's mind got blown by this IU business announcement. Guess what? I majored in education and I've built multiple businesses and been very successful with that degree working in business. And I merged business and education. So I've always said to families, I like to have a final college list no later than August 1st. What do
Yeah.
you say, Susan?
I would say the same. I ask, so sometimes students will reserve um, time to work with one of our coaches, they'll call us in March and they're reserving time in July and they don't have a list yet. And that's okay. All they're doing is
Yeah.
reserving time. By August, I need them to be working on essays. I don't want them to still be evaluating. Now, often what will happen, maybe not often, but enough that it is notable. Students will have a list when they come to us and it's too long. Their list has too many schools on it. They're too ambitious. And they'll say, like, I'm going to apply to these 15 schools. And I'll say, I'm going to help you with the first four. And then we're going to talk about whether you still need to work with me. They get through, they have all their essays ready. Now they're just doing variations on a theme. It's not that complicated, but they get to a point where they realize that maybe I don't need all these schools, that there's some that are sort of, they're too similar and I really prefer this one. I encourage students to have lists around the same time if possible because it tells me that they have put thought into it, that it's not a random list of schools. They actually know. And I ask them, why are these schools on your list? Why do you want to work on these? And the ones who can articulate that tend to have better essays and better results. They're more likely to get in, unless the reason is, well, these are the top 10 schools in America. And I say, you better put something else on your list.
A few things. I had a family one time that reached out to work with me as a college counselor for them, not on the career piece. And as we were interviewing each other, because I would make sure
Mm-hmm.
that there's fit on both sides, I said, they said to me, we're going to apply to all the Ivies. And I was like, well, then we're not a great fit. Because those schools, it is an athletic league. They are very, very different
Yes.
from one
Yes.
another. NYU doesn't have a campus. It's in an urban setting,
Yes.
and Cornell is like farmland central, right? So that was a flag of like a list that doesn't fit.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to bring something up real quick, and we just had another question come in that I meant to say earlier, and I didn't want to talk over you. You had said like, "Hey, there's schools that are going to require October deadlines, November 1st deadlines." I piped in with, if you're going to apply to a professional pilot program, you need to be
Mm-hmm.
ready to hit submit by Labor Day, really. There's other exceptions. The University of Arkansas shuts out of state applications for popular majors sometimes as early as mid-September.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but do keep in mind, you said, regular, and I agree with you, regular deadlines can be fine. However, at state universities where early action deadlines are
Mm-hmm.
tied to merit money, you need to
Yes.
not apply regular. So
Thank
Ohio
you for the
State,
reminder.
yeah,
Yes.
Ohio State's a good example.
Absolutely.
Well, you're
Mm-hmm.
coming at it from the essays and I'm coming at
Yeah.
it from the other stuff, but
Yeah.
um it like at Ohio State, you don't get money. University of Cincinnati, I'm just talking
Right.
about schools in my neighborhood. You're
Yeah.
not going to be considered for money if you don't meet their early action deadline.
Absolutely. And no, that's very important. And there's schools that will say, well, we're rolling admission, but applications open, they start to be read on a certain date,
Yes,
then be in by that date.
by the reading date. Yes.
Yeah,
And
be in
nobody
by the
starts
reading date.
reading applications before mid-September. Quite
No.
frankly, we're all at NACAC
Right.
annual conference
Yeah.
around September 20th, and they will
Yeah.
start reading after that. I think
Yeah.
this next question's for me.
Okay.
And we'll wrap it up with this one,
Yeah.
I think, unless somebody pops another one in. Do you help students identify the list of colleges or expect the students to come up with that list? So I know for sure Susan does not help people come up with a list of college because she's never been a college counselor. She is a
Right.
professional writer and she coaches writing. Um, what I help students do is I give them a methodology for finding the schools that have their major. I do not help assist you on finding schools that are within your budget. So my program will not look at all those other factors. But the list that you'll be able to generate after going through my program is, I can for sure know who has the schools that offer the credentialing that my student will benefit my student in getting to the career that they've identified. So we're going to identify the career. The outcome will be identify the career, and you'll know schools. Or I mean, we even work with students who go to a trade school. They'll know where they can go to school to get the education they need to do the job that they've identified. But my podcast guests can help you figure out paying for college and colleges and budget and things like that. I concentrate really on that career and major piece. So, anybody else? Susan, anything to add?
Nothing else. I say this all the time to my students, to potential students. You can do this. You're
Yeah,
qualified to do this. You did the hard part. You're in high school or you've gone to high school. Trust yourself.
absolutely.
And
So I
thanks for
had
the
a lot of
opportunity.
well, this was fun. And I had a lot of people ask about replay who are like, I'm going to register, but we can't be there
Mhm,
live. We are going to put this on the resources page of my website.
mhm.
Susan and I will email out everything but our show up live. I'm literally going to take the chat and download it, and I will put all the links into below the recording and in our follow up email. So we will email you once I have this uploaded to the website. I can't
Great.
promise that'll be tomorrow, but I will try to get
It'll
it
be on our
done.
site too. It'll be on
Yep,
our social media. So you'll be able to find us. Thanks.
easy. Okay.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.